Hi, I'm Amina Warsuma, and welcome to my story about a black model in Paris. That would be me. It all started in 1972 when I was modeling in New York. I lived uptown with my family, and I had this urge to go to Europe. At that particular time, there weren't any black models in Europe at all. I mean, it was unheard of. The closest thing to a black model was Josephine Baker. But she was a nightclub dancer and showgirl, almost like Las Vegas. She brought Las Vegas to Paris. I had wished and wished and wished that I could go to Paris. Oh, that was just like a dream come true, with all the fashion and the great designers and the clothes, stuff that I couldn't ever afford, and the runways and the excitement. And Paris was the fashion capital of the world. It was considered the fashion capital of the world then. New York was then 7th Avenue. Now it's Fashion Avenue. But American designers weren't considered couture. They weren't considered designers. They were considered more ready-to-wear, sportswear, even though they were doing evening clothes and they were doing pillbox hats and they were doing, fashion, in the movies. But the French didn't consider them designers. So I went. I got a ticket from Karl Lagerfeld, who was working for Chloe at the time. He was running Chloe, and through Antonio Lopez, which I do have a photograph. I'm in his book wearing a Stephen Burrows pink lettuce gown, and Stephen was like one of the first to do the lettuce around the dresses, and pants, the bottom pant leg would be lettuce. So Karl sent me a ticket, round-trip ticket. I came to Paris. They met me at the airport. They put me up in a hotel. And he told me, he said, you got 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, if you don't make it, you go back home. And I was like, oh my God. I was the only black woman that I saw, in Paris. I saw Africans, but they weren't models. They were just walking the street from Africa, and when I got there, it was like this, it was just fantastic, big, the biggest thing that ever happened to me. That was like a dream come true. I had never been overseas, and all the excitement that was there was like, wow. I was only 17. Anyway, he said I had 2 weeks to make it. So I'm thinking, okay, how am I going to make it in 2 weeks? I'm there to do his show. He said, after that, I'm not going to support you. So I did his show. And from that, I got with an agency called Krista, at the time was a modeling agency. From that show, all the press, all the newspaper, fashion people from all over the world were at his show. And I walked out on that runway, and I instantly became a hit. 2 weeks, I wound up staying 6 months in Paris. I worked for Courrèges. I worked for Karl Lagerfeld constantly. I worked for Dorothy Beast and so many other designers. I found myself going from show to show. It was just fabulous. And I do have the pictures to show, and pictures will be shown throughout the tape of me in Paris and in Europe walking the runway, also in magazines. I did a great deal amount of work. After the show came, I was a hit. After 2 weeks, I started supporting myself. Now, the only thing that I found that was hard, I couldn't speak the language. The only thing I could say is garçon, s'il vous plaît. Monsieur, mesdames, bonsoir, au revoir. That was the only things that I could say. But most of the people in Paris spoke English. Somebody spoke English. So English was like a second language. Also, after the shows, we would go to these fabulous parties. I remember going to the club set. I think they called it New Jimmy's. No, that's Regine's place. I can't think of the name that he calls it now. He made it into this big nightclub, like a Studio 54, a Parisian Studio 54. And I would go there like every night, the club set. And he would give me free dinners, the guy who owned it. He was very nice. The French were very nice to me. I didn't have a problem with them. They seemed to roll the red carpet out for me. I never had to pay for anything except, I would go shopping. I would go on shopping sprees and buy all these French clothes, ready to wear, not evening. I got a gown from Courrèges. It was a pink gown, I remember, with a hooded long cape. And I had been invited to go to the Martins party. I think they own Martins Paint. And they were giving their daughter, she was like 16, and they were giving her a debutante kind of ball. And they spent like almost like $100,000 on this party. And it was fabulous. It was like, the theme was Arabian, and they had big, black African men, muscle men standing at the door, dressed as giant genies. When you walked in, you had to say, the man announced you, Mesdames Amina Warsuma, is here, and you had to bow and curtsy to the daughter, she was 16, to the mother and the father, and the man would announce it. It was such a fabulous party. And in those days, we went to fabulous parties. People gave parties, they would spend $100,000, $50,000, $60,000, $20,000 just on a party. Imagine. And you had the Rothschilds, you had all the elite people in Europe who would come, the high society people. And they weren't a bit snobbish with me, and I found that to be really refreshing. They opened arms and they welcomed me, and they were warm to me. And the funny thing, when I was in France, I didn't eat French food. I would always eat spaghetti because I didn't understand, what the food was. And I was always kind of skeptical about eating food that I didn't understand. I didn't understand the name of the food, what was in it, and I had to watch my diet. So that was another thing too. So I would eat spaghetti. I would eat simple things. I didn't go, like eating the heavy French food, like with all the whipped cream and the parfaits and the pastries and the, because the French food is really kind of fattening if you think about it. But it's exquisite. But it's really fattening. So the parties, I would go out dancing every night. Every night. And there's a funny thing, I didn't feel too far away from home because I would go into, when I went to the club set, after you ate dinner, there was a disco, like in the next room. And so the guy that was there, he was a black guy. He was from America. So that was the only other black person I saw that was from America. But he was sort of like in the disco. He was the DJ. And he had all kind of records. And I would always tell him, play James Brown, because James Brown was my favorite. That was one of my biggest inspirations for dancing was James Brown. When I saw him at the Apollo Theater, I just said, oh my God, I just have to learn how to dance and keep dancing. And that's when I started dancing. But he would play James Brown and I would dance every night, and that's how I would stay thin. So I would work all day as a model, and then I would go out at night and I would dance. And the people just welcomed me with open arms. And from Paris, one thing I did have a problem with was getting most of my money. I remember going to the agency and I was asking her for my money because I had worked so much. I was working doing 3 and 4 shows a day for 3 or 4 weeks. And I didn't see any money. But the only thing, my hotel bills were being paid. I had a little money for food. That she would give me a little money for food, the agent. But I didn't see my money. And I wasn't the one talking directly to the client. Like here, you speak English, you can go directly to the client and say, oh, pay me. I worked you know, how many francs or whatever, how many dollars you need to pay me. And I remember going into the agency and literally begging her for my money. And she didn't really want to give it to me. And I started crying and crying. She just sat there and watched me cry, and then finally she gave it to me. And I can't remember how much, but it was quite a bit. You know, all the back work that I had, all the back pay that she had owed me was actually quite a bit. And it was like, okay, what am I going to do with all this money? Well, I did go on a shopping spree. So, and then from there, I went to Germany. I went to Switzerland. I went to Spain, Barcelona. I went to Milano. I was with Guy Ricardo in Milano. That was another big agent. I think now in Europe, all the agencies have joined together, almost like the euro dollar, where all the agencies in all the countries are connected. It's not just separate agencies. And in London, I went to London. I was with an agent in London. And the only other black girl I saw, she was Martinique. And her name was Josie. And she was from Martinique. And she was much darker than I. But she spoke French and she spoke a little English also. She spoke English and French. So that was the only other black girl that I saw. There was no black African American model in Europe in 1972. There was a black model named Danielle Luna. And she claimed to be Italian. She was lighter skinned than me. And she claimed to be an Italian. But I'm speaking about a dark-skinned African-American model. I was the first one. There was another young lady that was there, but she was not dark-skinned. And I was the first dark-skinned African-American model, which made a big statement because in Europe there wasn't affirmative action. There was no affirmative action. You could not say, oh, I am black, I am dark French, you know, hire me. I'm French. There was no distinction between black French and white French. You were either Martinique, which you were dark. You were very, very dark. You would be mistaken for a black person. You know, you said, well, I'm not black, I'm Martinique. But yeah, you're black. But you could not fight. And just 1972, affirmative action was just coming into play because you had all these black exploitation movies that were being shown in the cinemas in America. So blacks were really fighting, or they had been fighting for a place in corporate America. And they had been fighting for success. You know, and so affirmative action had just, you know, came into play. And so I became successful. And I don't think it was just because of affirmative action. I think I had been modeling for 4 years prior to that. From 1968, for 4 years, I walked around, I knocked on doors, nobody would hire me, nobody would test me. And then I just kept knocking, and then some would and some wouldn't. So the ones that did test me, I counted as wins. And the ones that didn't, I just didn't look at it as a loss. I just kept moving forward. Because I was always told, when one man says no, go around the corner, another man will say yes. So you don't know what's around the corner. And I was always the type of person that, you know, I was adventurous. And I just didn't, for some reason, this was sort of like before affirmative action, I started doing this, you know, going around. And the only black model that was really big in America was Naomi Sims. We talking about dark skin. Because dark skin at that particular time, you didn't have Essence magazine, you had Ebony. And so dark skin models were not considered, how could I say, beautiful as a whole. You know, there wasn't really a market for them. So you had Ebony, who had the fashion fair, And she had a market where black models could go and work and model and go on the runways, which I never was a part of. I was in Ebony magazine, but I never was a part of the fashion runway. I think that was, I was kind of young at that time, and I didn't think about runway at that particular point. I was basically thinking about print and being in photographs and creating my own style and my own look. That was kind of unique from anyone else. And at that time, they didn't have perms. And I think I was like one of the first, women of color who used, there were women of color who used perms because it was like perma-straight. And it was like lie. You put it on your head, made your hair straight. Sometimes it even made your hair come out. And I just did it. And I would have like a Marcel, which was really nice. So I had this look about me that was unique, and this personality was very funny. I've always been very funny, but I had this personality that was pretty unique. A strong personality, great body. You had to have that. And I was kind of quiet because I had a speech impediment, so I couldn't really talk like I can talk now. Oh my God, once it went away, you should see me. I just don't stop talking. But I had a speech impediment, so I was kind of ashamed of, my vocabulary. I was kind of ashamed of talking to people. And also I realized that the schools didn't have the same books as the white schools had. So the vocabulary was quite different. My vocabulary was quite different, quite lower than the person who went to a white school in a white neighborhood. Their vocabulary was different. They spoke different. It was a distinct difference because segregation was a big part. Even though we were integrated, we still were segregated. So that was a big part, and we had our own language, Now they call it Ebonics, but back then it was just broken English. You spoke, most people were from the South, so you spoke with a southern accent, or you spoke, Southern broken English. Wasn't really proper English, but you got your point across. So style was a big way of getting a point across. Style and beauty and, being a woman of color. That was always a big plus, a big point in, I think, our culture, doing something with our hair. We always have problems with hair. So when I went to Europe, they didn't have the products, and finding products for my hair. And makeup, that was another big problem. Finding makeup that matched my skin tone, that looked good. I would have to go around and search, every counter. I would go to Lancome for the mascara. I would go to Estee Lauder. She had a makeup line that she had from ivory all the way to black. She had a base that was this color. I was like, wow, who is that color? I guess, but I guess there are people that color, like the old Black Sambo pictures. I guess they were doing something like that. I don't know why she had that color. Maybe she mixed it with different, or maybe she had it so you can mix it. But she had a color, and it was a fresh air base. And as soon as they would have a color for women of color, they would, once it got popular, because I would use it all the time, I don't know, what happened, they would discontinue it. She went on to something else. It's like, why do you discontinue it? I need it continuously. Now I have to search around and mix colors together. I had a makeup man in Hollywood, William Tuttle, who I would, call and have him mix up a batch of makeup for me, because you had to have it custom made. There weren't makeup, there weren't products that catered to black women back then. You had certain products, but it was like, okay, perma-straight, and that thing was strong. It was like lye. It was like you could do a process with that. But I would use like a half a jar, because if you keep it on your head, it would just burn your head, and it would just make your hair so straight, So I used that. But then when I went to Europe, there was no perma-straight. There was no, makeup that was my complexion. So I would have to buy enough, and when I, have enough for when I was in Europe. If I ran out, I couldn't run out of my base and stuff like that, but like the lipsticks and stuff I could get by with, and mascara and eyeshadows, I could buy that, anywhere. But the base was really hard, and hair products were very hard. So when they came out with Ultra Sheen and Posner's and all these black products later on start flooding the market. I say it like the late 70s. You could find stuff. And hair, it's like, what do you do with our hair? So when I would be in the fashion show, it was like, how do we do your hair? So I would have to do my own hair because they didn't know how to handle my hair. They didn't have hot combs. They didn't have, they had hot curlers, but they just didn't know how to handle my hair. So I would have my hair, I would fix my hair, do my hair the way I wanted it to be done, leave it like that. I kept it short, fabulous. I had a style about me. And that look, I ran it. I ran it to the gauntlet with that look. I just, kept it, and it stayed for a while. It stayed for many, many years, which was great. What is so interesting about it is when I went to Germany. I went to a hair show in Germany, which is, I'm just saying, they didn't know how to do my hair, and they booked me for a hair show in Germany. But I wasn't I was not modeling hair. I was modeling makeup. And a guy who was, for his makeup, I was modeling his makeup, and he put the makeup on my face, and it was on a Mona Lisa's face. He had, the way he had the makeup was so funny. He had it on a Mona Lisa's face. And then he tried to take that makeup from Mona Lisa's face. Now, does my face look like Mona Lisa? No. He takes the makeup from Mona Lisa's face, and he tries to put it on my face. And I was like, no, it doesn't look right. It just doesn't look right. He was saying, everybody can wear this look. And I was like, no, not everybody can wear this look. That look is for Mona Lisa. You have to do a makeup that looks good on me. And that was the problem being a black model, is when they did a makeup for someone who was Caucasian, they would try to put that same makeup on you. And it just, I just have different features. It just didn't look right. And so I was like, oh, please just change it a little bit or whatever. And he would not do it. So, I guess I got a reputation for being kind of difficult, but I was like, it doesn't look right. It doesn't fit my face. But I guess I was supposed to be professional and say, okay, put it on. If it looks ugly, I'm the model. I'll just make it look beautiful. But I felt also being a model, you have to feel comfortable in the clothes. And this is what I loved about Karl Lagerfeld. I never did a fitting for him. And he had several dresses, and I would just, if I didn't like one dress, and I said, I don't feel comfortable in that dress, he would say, well, pick what you want. They all fit you. For some reason, I don't know how that worked, but they all fit. So whatever dress I picked that I liked fit me. And you feel comfortable. I think when you wear something that you feel comfortable in, and you go out on the runway and you're in front of thousands of people, you want to feel, like this dress fits me, and it makes it enhances me. But sometimes as a model, you can work for a client and the dress does not enhance you. You have to enhance the dress. You have to sell the dress. And not everything looks good on everybody, but you have to make it and you have to work it. And photographs, you can get away with it, because you can pin here, tuck here, do whatever. But on the runway, when it's live, that dress better be the right dress for you, because people can see it. Even no matter how well you model it. People can see right away, oh, that dress is not right for her. She shouldn't have had that dress on. Maybe some other model should have had it on. And, that has a great bearing on whether the buyer is going to buy it or not, depending on how good it looks on the model. But one of my other things was when I went to London, London was pretty good. London was really good. And I stayed with a friend. So that was pretty cool. And we still went out every night. We went to the club Tramps and we used to dance. And I still had to, you know, keep myself thin. And I did a show in London. And what they did to me is they dyed my hair silver. Silver. So I looked like an old woman, like silver gray hair, but it was silver and they sprayed. And the show was fabulous. It was in a big auditorium. A lot of important people were there, but nobody recognized me. Another shoot I did in London was I did the Sunday London Times. And I don't have that picture because, and this is, I did this shoot with Josie. Josie happened to be in London also. And like I said, she was the only other black model, but she wasn't an African-American model. And we had to do this shoot in 32 degrees weather on the beach in London in a bikini. And I was freezing. I mean, freezing. I'm very sensitive to cold. And I know, you know, I've seen the models, you know, you have to be on the top of a roof and you have to be, and it's 19 degrees and you have to be posing and pretend you're warm. Well, I couldn't. And the fact that I couldn't, you saw it on my face, and they put me on the cover of the Sunday London Times anyway, you know. So that goes to show you. They did the shoot. They didn't care. Put her on there, you know. But it was an interesting experience. I was sick for like 6 months afterward. But I was thankful, you know. I was really thankful about it. And then when I did get to London, I did meet another black model, but she was from Africa. And she lived in London. And she would model now and then. She was very nice. So, on to Italy, Milan. First I went to Rome. I went to Rome and I did a shoot in Rome, which was fabulous. I loved it. I ate so much. The Italian food was so great. Oh my God. In Rome, I gained 50 pounds. When I went back to New York, Amina sent me on an audition, and the client called her and told her, why are you sending this girl to me? She cannot fit the dress. So Amina calls me in the office and says, oh, you're too fat. I said, what do you mean I'm too fat? So I sent you to the client. The client called me and told me that you are too fat. You couldn't fit the dress. I said, oh, I can wear the same dress as so-and-so. She said, that was so-and-so's dress. So now you got to go on a diet. So they did have incentives to make you lose weight. You know, they just stop you from working because if you couldn't, lose weight, you just didn't work. So if you stop you from working, you don't have any money, then you don't have any money to buy any food, so then you lose weight. Either way, you know, they win. But anyway, I had a glorious time in Rome. I ate myself and enjoyed myself tremendously. Then I went on to Milan. Milan, I did a lot of shows, a lot of fashion shows in Milan. Italian Vogue, Linea Italiana. I did a whole issue of that. Other magazines. I can't recall. There's so many. Then from there, I went to Switzerland. I did a catalog in Switzerland. I went there a couple of times. I love Zurich. It was nice, crisp, cold. The chocolate was fabulous. The cows. The Swiss cow is amazing. I mean, he's like an elephant. And no wonder the steaks taste. That's the best steak I taste. I haven't tasted a steak like that. That was the best I've ever had. And I think it was like $10 in Swiss francs, American dollars, but it was just so delicious. I don't know. Those cows are like, wow. I had never seen one until I came to Beverly Hills, and they were giving a show, and they had a cow. It looked like an elephant in the street on Rodeo Drive, and I was like, what is that? They said, that's a Swiss cow. I said, that's a Swiss cow? My God, I never seen a Swiss cow. Anyway, on to Spain. Spain was fabulous. It was romantic. It was beautiful. Too bad I didn't have somebody to be there. But Barcelona was great to model in that and do the shows. And there again, I didn't see any black models. Then I come back to America. But before that, I'm going all over Europe. I'm living out of a suitcase. I'm in every magazine in Paris, practically. I'm in Vogue, I'm in Bazaar, I'm in Oui. I'm doing all the shows. I'm working with all the top designers. I'm going to the best parties every night. I'm eating the best. I'm drinking the best. I'm associating with some of the finest people in the world. So then I come back to America. And now we have all these black models coming in now because affirmative action has totally kicked in. There are like 8, 9 black models on the runway, when before you only saw one. And we got along pretty okay. Everything was great. We all went to parties. We all worked together. So then when I went back to Europe again, they started coming over. But I had already established myself and I was already there. But I must say the French treated me very well. Really wasn't snobbish to me. They rolled the red carpet out to me. They were very warm to me. And then I went back with the Palace Versailles. And I danced with Liza Minnelli. And this was supposed to be a fight with the French, but we were fighting in high heels. And to me, it was a great experience because I loved it. I mean, when we walked that runway, we just took the house down, brought the house down. I loved it. I didn't have a problem with the French because I had been there already. Now, I don't know what they were saying about the French being this and about the French being that, but I didn't have a problem with them because I had been to France before them. Everybody else seemed to have a problem with the French, but I thought it was fabulous. I was treated well. We were in the Palace Versailles, and it was fabulous. So we're going to take a break right now, and I'll come back and tell you some more. Don't go away. I'll be right back. I just wanted to pour myself a glass of Rothschild's wine. I saw it. I mean, I'm in California now. I saw it and I said, oh, I'm going to try this bottle. Because I knew him when I was in Paris. They used to be at the club set all the time. And he would be dancing. This is his great-great-great-great-grandson. But they're still one of the wealthiest families in Europe. And I never drank his wine. You know. So I'm having a taste now. Anyway, getting back to Paris. Josephine Baker, the Palace Versailles. Josephine Baker was starring in the show also. And I'll tell you what I liked about the Palace Versailles. I liked the fact that it was a show. It was like a Broadway show. And I had been taking dance lessons with Bob Fosse, Phil Black, who was like a protege of Bob Fosse, and so and Cabaret had just come out, and Anne Rankin and Bob Fosse was a big, big choreographer at the time. Anyway, I got a chance to do Palace Versailles. When they asked me to go, I said yes. But I had no idea that there was a feud between the French designer and the American designer. I had no idea that they were having this feud going on. So it was like I just went because, oh, it's going to be a show. Liza, we all flew on a plane together. She's going to be doing the choreographing of the dance steps, her and Kay Thompson. And I was like, wow, this is my chance to not only be a model and just model the clothes, but this is my chance to actually do dance steps, as a team. Because when you model, you work as one. You really don't work as a team. You have everybody else working as a team to make you comfortable. But you as a model, you are actually on your own. You're number one. So, and then I wanted to get into acting also. So I said, okay, this would be great if I go. But no one told me that this was this big, political thing going on. I mean, they didn't tell me that, oh, we're going over there to show the French that we're American designers just like the French, and we can do couture, and, I didn't know what was going on back and forth. I remember Anne Klein, I remember her crying. Somebody upset her really, really bad. But I didn't know who it was. I didn't know if it was the American designers that were with us, or was it the French, or or was it someone who wasn't in the show? I didn't know, and I felt really bad for her because she was a really sweet lady. But getting on to the dance steps, I was so happy to do the dance steps because it meant, oh, I can be in a Broadway show. I can be in a musical. I can just not be a model walking down a runway and not saying anything. So we do the steps, and we do something. I mean, we do it with the outfits. Each segment, I think we had several outfits. I know I did Anne Klein, I did Ralph Lauren, I did Stephen Burrows, I know I did Halston, and each designer segment had a whole dance step, a story, singing and dancing. And it was just fabulous. It was really fabulous. And Josephine Baker, the French had her. And I had said that, she was the closest thing to a black model. She was my complexion. And she was like, oh my God, she was the toast of the town. And she had left America to go to Europe because America was so discriminating towards her. And, she was like a Las Vegas showgirl, but she couldn't play in Las Vegas because of, she was a woman of color. So in France, she could be who she wanted to be. And that was the thing about Paris. Paris was something like Hollywood. You could be as big as you want to be and be what you want to be, and the French let you. They love entertainment. And she looked fabulous. Anyway, in between the show, no, this was during rehearsal. We went to lunch together. This was like one of the greatest things that happened to me. It was to have lunch with her. So we go to this French restaurant, and when we walk in, there are 6 policemen, 3 on one side, 3 on the other side. And they're like, Mademoiselle Josephine Becker. And they almost like take their coat off, like walk on my coat. You're a queen. She was treated like a queen there. She had a castle. I mean, I guess her dream for that, she could have never had that in America in her time. But the respect that they gave her, and I mean, movie stars don't get treated like that here. They have to pay for they have to pay for like bodyguards and whatnot, and she has cops willing to just, wow, when she walks in, just tip their hat, throw their coat on the floor, walk on my coat. You gorgeous, gorgeous goddess, you. And so we had lunch together, and I found that she was very bitter about America and how they treated her. And those scars never went away, and I was surprised with all the success that she had, that the scars that she had from the 1920s and the 30s in America, she never forgot. She never forgot. And she it was kind of sad in a way because she was such a great talent, and I think that she would have been great in Las Vegas. She would have been great at the Cotton Club, you know. She'd have been great, but, you know, at the Cotton Club, I think they only had, like, light-skinned women, you know, dancing, or white women. I don't know. I wasn't born back then, but I did a movie called The Cotton Club. Anyway, that was a very interesting lunch. After that, I mean, she got over it. I mean, she got over it. She had furs and diamonds and a castle, and she was a countess. You know, she got over all of that. And she was like the belle of the ball of Paris, and all of Europe knew her. So, you know, who needs America? I do. But I was sort of like there, and they treated me, I mean, wonderful. And whatever war that was going on between the French and the American, it was like a war on high heels. Well, we won. And I helped open up the door so that American designers could show their clothes in Europe. From that one show, and all of Europe was there, it really opened up the door for American designers. After that, I worked all the time, constantly. But by that time, other models start coming in, and they start working, and everybody wanted to stay with me, of course, you know, and they start working, and they start, you know. Now it wasn't so much of a, how could I say, a novelty anymore. Because now you got the runways over there flooded with black models. And then Yves Saint Laurent, that's all he used with black models. After a while, he didn't use it for a long time. He only used black models on the runway. And I'm glad that I started, you know, the trend. I'm very glad that I did. And I was the first one, and I was a pioneer, and I, you know, was a trailblazer, and I'm glad I did. But being alone in Europe at 17, and when I went to Europe, I only had $17 in my pocket. I didn't have any money. And I just went and just said, and that's the kind of person I was. You know, I'd live for the day and not think about tomorrow. And I thought life was quite interesting when you live like that, you know, because you never know what tomorrow's going to bring. And you don't know who you're going to meet. And that's what's so great about modeling and traveling all over the world. You don't know who you're going to meet, who you're going to see. You don't know what the next day is going to bring. You know, nothing is set in stone. You just have to go with it. And for 10 years I did. And after that, you know, I went into acting. And now I'm an actress. And I find acting similar to modeling in a way, but you kind of know what's going on a little bit. Whereas modeling, you don't know what's going to happen. I guess when you become a big star, you don't know what's going to happen, because a client from out of left field can call you and say, hey, you know, hey, we got you a job in Timbuktu somewhere, and, you know, just jump up and pack your stuff and come on over. You know, we saw your movie, we like you, we hired you. I don't think it's that easy in Hollywood, but I think you have to audition, you really have to work really hard. But modeling is really hard because you really work on yourself. And it's very external. And so I'm going to take another break right now. And I will be back to talk about more of a black model in Paris. Welcome back to A Black Model in Paris. Where was I? Oh, I went to Paris with $17 in my pocket. Now, that wasn't because I didn't have any money. It's just that the money that I had was being held up because I had worked quite a bit in America, and it seemed like I didn't get paid as fast as everybody else did. So when I did get paid, I would buy things and, you know, spend money. And I didn't worry about it, you know. The world was my oyster. So I took a risk. I went. How I got the job was I worked with Antonio Lopez, who was Puerto Rican. He was a Puerto Rican illustrator. And he knew Karl Lagerfeld, and he had suggested to Karl that I come over to Paris because it was something new, and he always, you know, wanted something new and original. And so Karl paid for my plane ticket. It was a round-trip ticket. And when I got to Paris, they met me at the airport and everything. And they said to me, well, Karl said to me, well, I'm going to support you for 2 weeks. If you don't make it in 2 weeks, I'm going to send you back home. And I was like, wow, that's the fastest, you know. I mean, if you can't make it in 2 weeks, usually people give you 6 months, they give you a year. 2 weeks? I did his show. And what was fabulous about Karl is I didn't have to have a fitting. Every dress that he had fit me. So if I didn't like one dress, he would say, you don't like that one, you don't feel comfortable in that, you can go ahead and wear something else. And I would pick whatever I liked and I would wear it. Because I always felt that a model should wear what she likes. I think she models it better. You feel more confident in something that you feel good in, as opposed to something that you don't. But from a professional standpoint, if the dress is ugly and you're a gorgeous model and they put this dress on you, you have to sell the dress. No matter, you know, what it looks like. But you know, when you walk in a runway, they can tell whether or not the dress is for you. I mean, if the dress is not for you and you're wearing it, the buyers and the photographers and the editors that are sitting in the audience, you know, will look at that dress and say, oh, you know what, that dress is not for her. She looks good, but the dress is not for her. It should have been put on somebody that it was for. I don't know how, you know, if the model wears it well and makes it her own. You know, you have to make the clothes your own. You have to make it and work it, you know, according to your body. That can be difficult at times. But if you know fashion and you know how to wear clothes, and that's another thing too, you need to know how to wear clothes. Also for you photographers, you need to know how to photograph clothes. And I guess photography is a lot more easier because if you have, I did a catalog shot and the outfit was too big, so they put clothespins in the back and they pin it and they make it look, you know, like it fits. And they have a steam iron to steam it and everything. So it fits and it looks perfect. So a photograph you can work with a little bit, but runway you can't. Anyway, I did Karl's show and I wound up staying in Paris for 6 months. I was the talk of the town, actually. We went out to restaurants every night. And at that time, I wore nothing but Stephen Burrell's clothes because I couldn't afford Karl Lagerfeld's clothes. And he was generous. He was very generous. He took me out to dinner every night. He took me to the best places in Paris. I worked for him quite a bit. He was very generous. We shot videos in his home. He was very nice to me. And I am very grateful for that. And my career launched from that. You know, so if you get a designer that likes you and, you know, that wants to hang out with you and be with you, do it. You know, because you learn a lot. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about you know, French culture. I learned a lot about the restaurants. You know, and another thing too, I didn't eat French food. I would eat spaghetti or something simple because I couldn't understand the menu and I was on a diet, and French food is very good, but it's very fattening. So a lot of the French food I could not eat, or I did not eat, because I was kind of like skeptical. If I don't know what it is, you know, I can't understand the menu, I'm not going to eat it. But that was one of the benefits that I didn't get to enjoy, was the good French food. Because when you're a model, you have to watch your weight, and you can't, you know, just eat anything you want. You have to have a great body, and you have to stay a certain size. Now, mind you, don't starve yourself. Don't get skinny, I mean, you know, like skin and bones, because that has happened to me too. I've gotten skin and bones, and then I've gotten overweight. You know, you just have to make sure that you stay in the middle. If you're a size, I was a size 8 at the time I was modeling. But usually they're like 2, 4, 5, something like that. But if you can manage it, manage it. What I do is eat lettuce and tomatoes and put lemon on everything. I call it an elimination diet, which I got out of oh my God, I can't think of the book. Back to Eden. It's a book, and they had it on. There was an elimination diet, and you put lemon juice on everything. You eat like lettuce, tomatoes, raw cabbage, whatever you eat, you put lemon juice on it, and that seems to eliminate the fat out of the system. I don't know. They have this other diet now where they they have the lemon juice, and they have the cayenne pepper, and they have the syrup, and that's one of these like crash diets that they take for like 2 or 3 days and get themselves super, super thin, or just thin. But that's what I do. The elimination diet seems to work for me, because I'm eating, and I'm eating, you know, you can eat 3 meals a day, but eat all salads, you know, no starches, no pasta, no carbs, eat apples, drink plenty of water, and you lose it. And you gotta watch it though. You're gonna be craving cookies and potato chips and all these chocolates and donuts, and you will crave. And, you know, you just have to fight it. I mean, if you can just take a little piece of it, you know, and you'll be okay. But if you take the whole thing, then it's gonna be like, okay, you lost control. Anyway, getting back to Paris. So I had to stay thin. And I would walk the catwalk, and I was the toast of the town. I worked for everybody who was anybody. And at that time, there wasn't another dark-skinned model. I mean, they were Africans in Paris, but they weren't on the runway. They were not African American. So this was a big thing. This was a breakthrough. And this is why I say, if I could break through the industry when there wasn't an industry for me, you could do it too. As a photographer, as a fashion model, as a designer, you could do it too. You just have to have your package together and be confident. Especially as a model, you have to be confident in your body. You have to have a great body, and you have to be confident, because you're going to be surrounded by beautiful, gorgeous, naked women all the time when you do fashion shows, and you can't feel, you know, you can't have a lack of confidence. You can't feel, oh, she's prettier than me. Oh, it's because it's always going to be somebody prettier than you. There's always going to be somebody who has better skin, who has better hair, who has better legs, who has better buttocks, better bust. You have to be confident with your package. And that is the key, and positive. And roll off, you know, and people are going to reject you. People are going to tell you, no, you're not my type, you're not my look. Just let it roll off your back. Don't even, I mean, if it's something constructive, like you need to lose weight, or you need to get your skin fixed because your skin is bad, or you need to get your teeth done because your teeth are crooked, you know, take that. But if it's just something where, oh, you know, so-and-so's better than you, oh, blah, 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 and all this she, you know, and shilly-shally stuff, just ignore it. Oh, you're not my type, I can't hire you. You know what? Too bad. When you become a success, they all want to hire you. They're all going to want to say, oh my God, now you know I'm ready for your look. So, I ate spaghetti. I would go to the club set at night, and the guy who owned the club set was a nightclub. He used to let me have free dinners, and I would eat food. And I would eat spaghetti, but I would eat a small portion of it, so it wouldn't be too much. And then I would dance the night away. I would dance until the wee hours of the morning and then get up and go to work. So I burned the candles at both ends. I had so much energy. But I would dance off of James Brown. I love James Brown. So I wasn't so like alienated when I was there, because I had my James Brown music at the clubs. You know, I had my spaghetti, my little comfort food. And then, you know, I was very popular. So it wasn't so hard for me personally. Professionally, I had to be on it, you know, because I was the leader. I was setting the trend for so many to follow behind. And believe me, quite a few black models started coming to Paris after me. Yves Saint Laurent started using only black models. That's all he would use in his show. And it seemed to work. So we're going to take a break right now, and we'll be back with a black model in Paris.
Until the end of time.
Welcome back to A Black Model in Paris. Well, I left off at Japan, I think. I went to Japan, and I worked for a weekend, and I was like, there were no blacks there either. Not one. No whites did I see, but you know, usually whites usually go. But I went, and I was modeling some pearls, Mickey Moto's, I think, and that was a good shoot. The funny thing about that shoot, there was a Japanese lady there, and she was trying to get me to sign with her, and I was at the time I was at Amina, and I couldn't do it, but all went well there. Getting back to Paris, the Palace Versailles. Well, this job was offered to me. I didn't know it was a fight in high heels. I thought I was just going on a trip to Paris to work for several American designers, and we were going to do a show at the Palace of Versailles to help raise money, I think, to refurnish it. But I got the chance to dance with Liza Minnelli, which I thought was really great, because I thought, all my friends are on Broadway, I'm not on Broadway, I'm a model, and this was a chance that it wasn't just modeling, it was steps, dance steps, there was segments, and Liza choreographed the dance steps, her and Kay Thompson, and it was almost like a show. And it's something I had never done before with the group. And we did Anne Klein, we did Stephen Burrows, Halston, Oscar de la Renta. Who else did we do? Oh, I can't think of another designer that we did. But I think those were the designers that, Ralph Lauren, yeah, those are the designers that went. And what they were trying to do was to prove to the French that American designers weren't ready to wear. They could do couture. Because the French, from what I heard, that didn't think American designers could do couture, and they were the only ones that could do couture. But I was treated very well. And they had Josephine Baker, and she was somebody that was on their side of the show. She wasn't with she wasn't in the American part. She danced on the stage. She was fabulous. After we went to have lunch, this is during rehearsal, we went to have lunch, and she was treated so much like a queen. My God, the police, you know, Mademoiselle Josephine Baker, she lived in a castle. She was like dark skinned, like my complexion almost, but she was a showgirl. She wasn't a model. So she basically was the first black showgirl in Paris. And she was treated like the cream of the crop. I mean, she was queen of Paris. What more could you want? Because America at the time was sort of racist back in the 1920s and 30s when she first started out. I think she wasn't light-skinned enough. And at the Cotton Club and all of the Sugar Hill Club and all these clubs that they had up in Harlem, after-hour spots that they had dancers and whatnot. But this show was something like it. Only thing, we did an Anne Klein segment. We did the dance steps when we came out. We did a Stephen Burrows segment, and we walked that runway like it wasn't walked, like it has never been walked before. We brought the house down, and it was a big, significant job for me because that was in 1973. Just this year, 2011, I was honored by the Mayor of New York and Mayor Bloomberg, and they had given the Museum of Metropolitan Museum of Modern Art gave a big luncheon, and they honored me and the other girls who participated in the show. But that was sort of like in their history, that was the first time a group of black girls went to Paris. But I was there before. I was there in '72. So I was sort of used to the French. And, you know, I was treated very nice. And we had parties, we had dinners, and it was just a fantastic thing to do. And it was a chance to get to work as an actress, dancing, singing, because we were, you know, they had music and we had to sing to the music, do the dance steps, and not just model the clothes. So, and we had to do 5 segments, and I thought that that was something that introduced me to modern jazz and a way to be more of a showwoman than just a model. So that was great. Now, from what I understand, some of the designers had some problems with the French designers. It was a little competition there, but I didn't see any of that. My experience was totally positive. And after that, well, before that they were using black models on runways, but I think after that they really started using black models on runways. So that opened the door. That was the launch pad of American designers being introduced to Paris in Europe. And it took off like a flash, and that was because me as a model and the rest of the models did our job so well, and we worked those clothes and we worked that runway until it just was a fantastic show. And from what I understand, there were other things happening that weren't good, as the backgrounds, you know, that broke, or they couldn't have it, so we couldn't use any background, so it made it look much more modern than it would have. And but I mean, it was just a delight. My other experiences in Paris was very good. I just worked and worked and worked, and I'm going to tell you what you guys need to be in the fashion industry, because I think that's very important to be able to break in and to make a living at it. You know, I did it for 10 years. I lived out of a suitcase, of course. That was my only compromise. But it was a wonderful life. And you get to go and you get to travel and you get to meet people and you go to nice parties, and there's always something happening with fashion. It's exciting, you know. And if, as a model, you really don't, what you need Well, you need good pictures. That's number one. But the first, what you really need, you need good skin, good teeth, good hair. As like I said, our hair was a problem, so I would keep mine short and I would wear pieces, you know. But if they want to, if you have good hair, they're going to be combing the hair and picking in the hair. And for years, my hair was very thin in the back, where I got, you know, so many different hairdressers were on my hair until it was just a mess after a while, and sprays and hot curlers and hot combs. But you need good hair to start with. You need good skin. You need a great body, a body that the clothes can just fit on. Now, either you can be a body where you're like just the dress hangs on you. It hangs on the body and you are modeling the dress. Or you can have a body where the dress models you. So I had mentioned before earlier that sometimes you get dresses that don't look good, but you have to work with it and make sure that you make it work. You sell that dress. It's much easier in print than it is on the runway. I said this before. But those are the things that you need. And you need to keep your weight down. So that's another thing. And you need to be original. You need to have a personality that is very strong. And some girls are very quiet, you know, but they have a strong presence. They don't talk a lot. They're not friendly. You know, they're not open. They're friendly, but they're not open and outgoing and bubbly, and you know, they don't have a strong personality, and they are very successful as models also because they're very professional. You need to be on time, because time is money, and they get very, you know, upset when you're not on time. You need to be able to get along with everybody, you know, just get along even if you know, sometimes it gets kind of competitive, you know, with a bunch of girls. It gets very competitive. And you need to be able to hold your own. And you need to be very secure with yourself. And I think I mentioned that before. Also, you need to be someone who's a go-getter. You know, you should be someone who takes the initiative and not be afraid of rejection, because like I said earlier, and I'm not going to repeat it again, that's a part of the business. And a lot of people are not going to hire you in the beginning, and sometimes you have to build up that clientele and build that portfolio up. Now, one thing I had I was kind of lazy with was taking new pictures, and you have to constantly take new pictures, because once I started working, I was just using the tear sheets from the magazines, which you'll see later on in my portfolio. But I needed to, as time went on, I needed to take new pictures. I needed to advance my look. And I just didn't really do that. I just worked with what I had, traveled and traveled and traveled and traveled. So you need to be able to do that and take different pictures and just be the best that you can. Now it's all color. Back then it was black and white, you know, so color, we see everything. Everything. HD, we see everything, you know. So you have to make sure that your body's perfect, no cellulite. Your legs, I mean, I didn't always have great legs, but I mean, they went with my body, you know. I mean, I didn't have a big body and skinny legs. I had skinny legs, skinny body. But legs are pretty nice to have. I always had nice hands. Hands are pretty nice because you can be a hand model. So those are the parts, you know, if you have a nice mouth, you can be a lip model. You know, you can do lipsticks and you know, toothpaste ads and stuff like that. Anything that has anything to do with the mouth and a smile. So that's another good thing that I want to tell you guys. And we're talking about before, is there a lot of drugs, a lot of stuff in the business that, you know, is decadent in the business? Well, in every business there's a decadent side, you know, in a business such as that, in the movie business, the singing business, the fashion industry, there's always a decadent, dark side. But as an individual, you have to make the choice on which road you want to take, because there's so much happening, and you have to really stay focused now more than ever, because there's so much competition in it, and so many girls coming up. You have to be healthy, energetic, and just be on it. Get your sleep. And I never got my sleep. I was always burning the candle at both ends, but it didn't look bad on me. I just had all this excess energy, so I used that to my advantage. And like I said, some people are going to tell you no, and some people are going to tell you yes. And let me see if I'm missing anything. Something else that you need to have in order to be successful in the fashion business. Versatility. That's another thing. And now some girls can only do certain things, but now they want girls to be able to do commercials. Like I said, that wasn't for me, but be able to do commercials, be able to do print, be able to do catalog, high fashion, ready to wear, swimwear. I've done swimwear, I've done lingerie, I did high fashion, I did ready to wear. High fashion looked better on me than ready to wear. So, I was just so much into high fashion, wearing high fashion all the time. I never had any really simple day clothes, and that was just me, And make sure that you seek out good photographers. Like I said, go to the agencies and find out which photographers are testing. Do not pay anyone $1,000 for a portfolio. If anybody tells you that you need to do that, that is a rip-off. Because I have so many people that are ripping people off in this business. It's become, oh my God, it's just awful. And telling them that they're going to be a model, they can be this, they can be that. You have to pay a certain amount of money. No. Your body is your capital. Your whole look is your capital. And that's what you bank on. And like I said, now, you may not even need film now, because they got the HD camera. So, and they just put it on a disc, or, and you just go and get it blown out. Print it out, and you put it in your portfolio. So find that. Now, also now in fashion, things are very creative, because from what I understand, photographers have this, all this equipment, and for fashion they have all this equipment because it has to be creative, it has to be this, it has to be that, when then we just did a simple picture. So I don't know if I would advise you guys to be too creative. If you can, you can. But if you can take just a simple picture showing your beauty, your body, the clothes. Remember, it's to sell the clothes. If you're doing a bathing suit, it's to sell the bathing suit. Whatever you're modeling, if you're modeling hairs, products, or whatever your hair, you could, I guess with hair you can do something really creative, and maybe you can go to some hairdressers and say, oh, I'm doing a test shot, and I want to do a nice hair shot. Can you do my hair, and I can give you a picture, and they may, do it on comp, and do something really fabulous and avant-garde, and you got a nice shot there, But you should have every range. So when you go to the agency, they can see that you can do several things, and you're versatile in your look and your modeling. But like I said, don't get too creative or way out, unless you have an art director that wants to work with you also, and they will, okay, we have this idea, we want this, we want that, we want you coming out of a waterfall, or I have some idea, I want you coming out of a guy, not a model. I wore Calvin Klein, and this is what I want to say. I wore Calvin Klein, and a photographer wanted me to do a shoot coming out of seashell. He had this idea, and so I borrowed the Calvin Klein bathing suit, and I put it on, and I'm standing there with my hands up like that, and I'm coming out of this seashell, you know, and I'm holding onto this pole, and the seashell is really big, and you see me, and it was a beautiful black and white photograph. I will probably put that on here too, so you guys can see that. But that was sort of creative, you know, something like that, or you know, you coming out of a sink or something, or you know, so, or a TV set or a book, or so, you know, open a book and here you are, you know. But you can do that. And as photographers, you need to do a lot of test shots too. You need to do a lot. The photographers who want to break into this business. And then after you do so many shots and you walk around and you try to get a rep to take your photographs to magazines to see if they will hire you. So photography, but if you hang out at the shows and you start taking pictures of the fashion shows and you know, you keep these slides, that's a good way of getting shots. If you can, if you're in New York and you can go on 7th Avenue, or you can go down to the Fashion Mark and you see a runway show and you can ask the designer, can you come in and take pictures? That's a good way of getting, you know, film without getting a model together, getting the clothes, getting the hair together, putting everything together yourself. It's already done. And you can use the pictures, you know, with their consent in your portfolio. And they may want some shots and you keep some shots. So that's a practical way of doing that. For designers, and I work with many designers, and I also used to sew clothes and make my own clothes when I didn't have money. Designers, you have to do original designs. And they have to look original, you know. Don't knock off anybody. Because if you knock off someone, like ABS does, you know, I got to knock off the couture designers. They knock off the couture designers and they give it to you at a cheaper price. But I wouldn't advise you guys out there to do that. I would advise you guys to do something original. And if you have a model, you know, and get a photographer to shoot your stuff, and you have a portfolio also. So everybody needs a portfolio. It works. Makeup artists, you need a portfolio too. And you need to get in on these shoots and take a photograph, have photographs taken of your work so you can present yourself as a professional makeup artist and they can hire you for the shows. Maybe you can get in and do the makeup for a fashion show and have a photographer take pictures while you're working, or while, you know, maybe you do it for free. You could talk to a designer and say, you know what, I'll do it for free for you because I need to work on a portfolio and I'm new. Would you, you know, could you let me do the makeup? And they may just do that. You know, it works. One hand washes the other. And you have a photographer there taking the pictures. Well, you got a makeup portfolio and you didn't pay anything. You just paid to get the pictures developed. And that's it. So, you know, instead of putting it all together yourself, if you can't do that, you know, you're not in a city that has a fashion show where you can do makeup, then you're going to have to maybe go to a beauty salon. And while the ladies are doing their hair, you can ask to do makeup and have a photographer there take the pictures. So they're doing hair and makeup together, you know, and you have a portfolio. Now this is the people, you know, that's in Oklahoma or somewhere in Midwest where fashion, and you want to be a model and you want to be a fashion designer or a photographer, and you have these big dreams of coming to New York and going to Paris and Europe. Good, come on. But try to be professional and ready when you get here. You know, not someone coming to New York with, you know, little money in their pocket, no pictures, no nothing. You know, and I'm just coming to New York and I'm going to try to get into the fashion business and I don't have anywhere to start from. You know, I got to do everything in New York. We used to do that. People did that many times. I know, that's what I said. I know girls who came from California to New York and became top models with one picture. Sent a picture in, and Wilhelmina said, put her on a plane, bring her to New York. I'll pay the bills. So that was then. Now it's like you have to be ready. You have to be at least on the first level for someone established to pick you up and offer you help to take you to the next level. Professionalism. So at least you're ready as someone, as opposed to someone, I'm not ready at all. And look at Vogue, look at Bazaar, look at all the magazines. If you're in a small town and you can't get them, go online and see if you can subscribe to them where they can come to your home in the mail. And that way you can see what fashion is, what the pictures are doing. It's always constantly changing. I mean, every season they have to do, every month they have to do an issue, So it's always constantly changing. And you need to be up to date on everything. Where back then, when I was modeling, it was a bit slower. It was changing, but not as fast, Also, for you makeup artists, make sure you do a summer, winter, fall, spring look. Hairdressers, summer, winter, fall, spring look. Models, the same thing. You need a look for all seasons. And every time the season changes, a new makeup line comes out. So they're advertising this, and this is every year. To get rid of the old products, bring in the new products. This is the new color for spring. If you're somebody like I was very psychic, and I could basically tell you what colors was gonna come in, and I would get it in my mind what color, like chartreuse or whatever, would come in like a year or 2 years before it would come in, before it would be popular on the market, and I would be doing this. So if you can, see into the future a little bit and see what's coming and do it, that would be great. So, now that I told you guys, and diet. I told you about my elimination diet. I already spoke about that. So I don't think there's anything else that I can say about a black model in Paris, as the fact that I was breaking into a market. And this is what you guys are going to be doing. You're going to be breaking into a market, and you have to set the standard. You have to raise the bar, you have to set the standard, you have to be original, and everyone is original, but play up what you have. Play up what you have and work with it. Practice in front of the mirror also too. That happens. And like I said, if you don't have a good, you're quiet, you're shy, I would advise you to read a lot so you know how to talk on many different subjects, because people want to talk to you and they want to take you out to dinner and they want somebody interested and they like being entertained. And if you're not somebody that, I don't want to entertain anybody, I just want to come in and go to work, go back home, I think that works too. You may go into catalog work. There were a lot of models who were like that, who worked 9 to 6, and they weren't entertaining. They didn't go out to parties. They didn't network. They just went to work. And they made, $2,000 or $3,000 a day. Now, the only other thing that was a drawback with me was because I was black, I did not get the same pay rate as my Caucasian counterparts. So, that was a problem. But you know what? I didn't worry about it. I made a lot of money, and I also had a lot of fun. It offered me a life. It offered me an education. And without it, I wouldn't be here talking to you guys. So thank you for watching A Black Model in Paris. I hope my documentary has been entertaining and educational for you. And I hope it can help you to move forward with your career in fashion. Thank you.